Thank you for joining us as we dive into park fire coverage on the North States News at 6:30. I'm Ariana Martinez. The park fire has burned more acreage in 3 days than all of the other fires in the state combined this year. We have team coverage tonight out in the field. We have Max Tedford in the Paynes Creek area, as well as Sophia Berensma near the Coleman Fish Hatchery. As of last update from CAL FIRE, containment is now up 10%. This is great news for firefighters battling the blaze. Right now, as the park fire has burned more than 350,000 acres.
As you all know, this is deliberate.
Are stretched thin as the blaze continues to
just
burn
like
out
Car
of control.
Fire was.
As well as Butte counties,
and Mendocino Fire.
Acres per hour.
They're controlling things on the left side.
It's about 8 square miles an hour. This is forcing evacuations as far north as Shingletown as it continues to spread north, making its way towards the Manton area. As of for more than 350,000 acres burned, more than 250,000 of those have been throughout Tehama County. The North States News and Max Tedford joins us live from the front lines in Paynes Creek now, where the firefight has been intense all day long. Max, what is it like out there?
Well, Ariana, I've been in here since about 3:30 along Lanes Valley Road, just north of Paynes Creek. And, you know, over the day, actually, it's kind of gotten less hectic, as it seems that fire teams here along the kind of northwest side of the park fire have seemed to get a handle on it. Thanks to what Brian has said, you know, the wind has been a lot lighter today. And so that seems to really have helped firefighters here. You know, there's a lot of areas that have definitely been burned through, but it's all kind of up until their fire lines. And it seems that most of the fuel has been consumed. Now, of course, you know, we know that winds might pick up tonight. And so there is still that concern. Don't take this as a sign to not keep watching Genesis Protect, not keep watching watch duty, and not keep watching out for those evacuation orders and warnings, because this could still change. But at least here on the northwest side, it seems that it's getting somewhat under control. So, you know, there is a little bit less of risk here. You know, there's a structure here that they seem to have been able to save. Now, I haven't been able to get to Paynes Creek yet, so I don't know the status of those buildings, but so far, control here. Live on Lanes Valley Road, I'm Max Tedford for the North States News.
Thank you, Max. This leads us to our fire weather coverage with First Alert meteorologist Brian Schofield. Brian, what is the weather feeling like for those on the front lines of this evening?
Well, Max was right. It's lighter in areas that we need it to be lighter. Calm in Shingletown. Other areas, it's still up there. I mean, single digits. We're seeing double digits.
But that's what they said during Car Fire, and then everything took a shift for the worst.
Let's take a look a little closer in and see what's brewing. We'll even get our little measuring tool out and start to focus on areas that are obviously very concerned about this coming very much closer. You can see the fire line right there in red. Essentially, we've been watching that throughout the afternoon. I'm going to pull up a measuring tool and measure it from that line to Paradise for you folks there. That puts it about 3.5 miles or so and some change away from you. Magalia as well, almost 5 miles away from you. We'll take a little more advanced and we'll just kind of send it up north because we know you folks there are obviously very concerned about it as well. Pull up that tool again and we'll put it up to closer to Manton. I think it's going to be very interesting to see this and keep an eye on this for the evening because it's a little less than 2 miles away from you folks in Manton, and for Shingletown as well. It's right there, just a little shy of 5 miles from you as it continues to move to the north. Area.
Thank you, Brian. Here's a look at satellite imagery of the park fire from the University of Colorado. The fire is growing at a rapid rate of speed, prompting an aggressive firefight for the thousands of personnel out there on the front lines. Our thoughts are with them as they work to control the blaze with the goal of protecting life as well as property. Now, thousands of people across the North State are either in some type of evacuation order or warning. Now, we're going to take a look at the Tehama County evacuation map. This is on Genesis Protect. Now, if we zoom in a little bit right here in the bottom of this Tehama County area, you can see that most of these warnings in yellow are up against the 99 for the most part. This orange road that you see on your screen right there is the 99. It separates a little bit once you go a little bit more north. Let's zoom out slightly right there. And the red areas are evacuation orders, which means do not be in this area. The yellow is evacuation warnings, meaning be prepared to leave at a moment's notice. Get those medicine bags ready, your clothes, the dog food, all of that stuff in a place where you can grab it and go if it is necessary to leave at a moment's notice. Now, if we move up north more towards the Shasta Tehama County line, you can see this is where you can see more evacuation orders as well as warnings. Now, if we zoom into this yellow line, this is the Shasta Tehama County border line. And when we zoom out slightly, all of the red, again, are those orders, and everything below what seems to be the 44 is in an order, and everything above the 44 in yellow seems to be a warning at this moment. Now, this is changing, although this map has not changed since this morning, but we will continue to keep you updated. Let's take a look now at the Butte County evacuation map. This also has been unchanged since this morning. It's the same for these areas. Areas in red are evacuation orders. Areas in yellow are evacuation warnings. We'll zoom in ever so slightly right there. And this is including the entire town of Paradise, where people continue to recover to this day from the devastation of the 2018 Camp Fire. In Butte County, an evacuation center has opened up at Neighborhood Church on Notre Dame Boulevard in Chico. Small animals being taken in at 2279 Del Oro Avenue in Orville. Large animals can be brought to the Camelot Equestrian Park in Orville. In Tehama County, the Los Molinos Veterans Hall is taking in evacuees. Large animals are being accepted at Ridgeway Park, as well as the Corning Rodeo Grounds. These are self-serve, meaning feed as well as the setup needs to be provided. Small animals at 22005 Gilmore Ranch Road in Red Bluff. There's also been an evacuation resource center. This is set up at St. Peter's Episcopal Church in Red Bluff. Now, in Shasta County, an evacuation center has been established at Bella Vista Elementary School. Then small animals can be taken to the Haven Humane Society.
Restaurants.
Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone, who are teaching this truth in sincerity. And a shout out to the Akims out there in the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, Barak. So this is an ongoing event as it started last Wednesday, and of course, like everything else, so they're deliberately letting it get out of control because there's been a volatile plan for a long time. You know, because they don't want people that know how to survive. No, they want to make it very much so that where you're being moved to the city, move to them evacuation centers, just move to them, you know, strong cities, you know, that's what Esau wants. So we can see that this is deliberate, you know, as all things usually are.
Fighters are slowly making progress on the park fire right now. We've just learned that CAL FIRE has updated the containment to 12%. That is up from 10% last night. Since it broke out on Wednesday afternoon, it quickly grew to more than 300 acres, and CAL FIRE says it is now the 7th largest wildfire in California's history.
Because they don't really fight fires
anymore. Park fire is also triggering evacuations in multiple counties, and let's take a look at those numbers right now. According to CAL FIRE, the park fire has burned more than 350,000 acres, and more than 130 structures were destroyed, and 4,200 structures remain threatened. Let's take a look at the evacuation zones in Tehama and Shasta counties. Parts of Shingletown and Manton remain under evacuation orders. Lassen Volcanic National Park is closed due to this fire, and all visitors and park staff have been evacuated and reservations have been canceled. And this is a look at the latest evacuation map for Butte County. The entire town of Paradise and Magalia remain under evacuation warning, and there are now 2 evacuation shelters, one at the Neighborhood Church in Chico and the other at the Butte County Fairgrounds in Gridley. Again, this is one of the largest fires in California history right now, and to give us more perspective, let's send it over now to Aaron Heft live in Butte County this morning. And Aaron, what are you seeing today?
Leticia, many changes in the last 24 hours here in Butte County. This alone, take a look at how much smoke is really behind me. This, a huge change yesterday into this morning. And we've actually even been able to see some spot fires in the distance. That's a little concerning because at this point in the morning, usually this is the least fire activity in the day because it's been a little bit more humid, a little less wind, and a little cooler overnight. Now, take a look at this video. These are conditions from the last 24 hours. The park fire burning 3.5 days at this point. And over the last day, we've seen the slowest growth in acreage. Comparing yesterday morning to this morning, the park fire growing an additional 43,000 acres, which is less than 1,800 acres burned per hour. We actually did a little math, and that's about 3 miles per hour, which seems like a lot, but is less than what it was burning in past days. Also changing overnight, CAL FIRE had been reporting that 134 structures had been destroyed by the fire, and those numbers were collected by aerial structure assessments. But now damage inspection is being assessed from the ground, and they confirmed that 20 structures have been destroyed at this point. That a massive reduction in the original assessment. Though, important to note, CAL FIRE did say that these numbers will fluctuate in the days to come, and more ground level assessments still need to be completed.
In the days to come, they don't put fires out the next day anymore.
You could see the valley
They're
yesterday.
not going to save
what I'm going to do in the next 30 minutes or so is make our way down to Forest Ranch, see what the homes and the fire personnel look like more northward. We haven't made it that far, and that's where a lot of homes really do reside in this remote area. In Butte County, Aaron Heft, KCRA 3 News.
Aaron, we'll check back in with you. Thank you for your live report this morning. And the Butte County Public Health Officer has declared a local health emergency because of the park fire and the hazardous materials found in the ash and debris from burned structures. This local health emergency allows the county to access programs to remove toxic substances from those destroyed properties so property owners can start to rebuild at some point. The Butte County Board of Supervisors has to ratify the declaration within 7 days. Hundreds of families impacted by the park fire are getting financial help this weekend from the California Fire Foundation. Yesterday in Chico, the foundation gave 300 disaster relief cash cards worth $250 each to the staff of the Northern Valley Catholic Social
Why?
Services.
What's left?
They will work to pass out those cards to those evacuated in Butte and Tehama counties. And if you want to help the victims of the fire, you can also donate to the California Fire Foundation's Disaster Relief Program online.
So that's what's happening there in the North State, right? And like everything else, though, you know, hey, Trump's giving you a spoiler alert. Harris will lead to World War III, says Donald Trump. The vice president is incompetent and will escalate the crisis in Southeast Asia, the Republican rival claimed. Should Harris win the U.S. presidential election, major wars in Southeast Asia and maybe a third world war will break out, former President Donald Trump claimed. Trump has repeatedly accused Harris and President Biden of dragging the U.S. toward a global conflict. Accusing? It's happening! But hey, make no mistake about it, Trump was escalating shit too when he ordered a drone strike that killed an important commander to, you know, the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, right? You know, he ordered a drone strike in Baghdad, and that led to an entire base being taken out by Iran. See, when Iran does get involved with stuff, you're going to know with that. And there ain't a damn thing you can do to stop it. Speaking of a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister on Friday, Trump vowed that the Israeli-Hamas war would work out and very quickly if he were to return to the White House. Well, of course, like everything else, though, he'd probably just continue, you know, making even bigger weapons for, you know, the Israeli state to have, so that way they could exterminate them. So, like everything else, though, both are going to escalate the war. The least the flock will draw them in. In their own words, Harris' radical vision for Babylon. While the left is trying its hardest to recast Harris as a moderate Democrat, quietly scrubbing public record, over the past 5 years her actual positions have been radical. For starters, she's on record wanting to abolish ICE, which she compared to the KKK, letting criminals like the Boston Marathon bomber and rapist vote, ban fracking and offshore drilling, defund the police, provide U.S. taxpayers subsidized health care to illegals, and ban private health insurance. You know, make it more Obamacare-like. Meanwhile, during the 2020 Democratic primary, Harris said that if elected president, she would ban by executive order the importation of assault weapons. Hey, you know, once you go for the guns, then all hell's going to break loose.
100 days, including banning imports of AR-15 assault weapons.
That's right.
President Obama, after Sandy Hook, more than 23 executive actions, and here we all are today. In recent days, former Vice President Biden has said about executive orders, some really talented people are seeking the nomination. They said, I'm going to issue an executive order. Biden saying there's no constitutional authority to issue that executive order when they say I'm going to eliminate assault weapons, saying you can't do it by executive order any more than Trump can do things when he says he can do it by executive order. Does the Vice President have a point there?
Some things you can. Many things you can't.
Let the Senator answer.
Well, I mean, I would just say, hey, Joe, instead of saying no, we can't, let's say yes, we can.
Let's be constitutional.
So there you have it, though. Yes, we can. Or did they mean thank you, Satan? Because Satan is Amalek. You know, the least of the flock, Amalek, and they're going to do whatever Amalek wants. Amalek is the one that controls Babylon the Great, a.k.a. America. And here's more stuff going on, right? Lithium battery fire sparks traffic mayhem across California desert. Some users described the traffic near Baker on the northbound lanes of I-15 as Carmageddon. This followed road closures on Friday that extended well into the weekend due to an overturned truck carrying lithium-ion batteries that ignited on fire. But they want all our videos, you know, cars to be electric, right? So what happens when lithium catches fire? You know, this is a good example. As early Sunday, California Highway Patrol wrote on X, I-15 northbound at Harvard Road remains closed, adding crews are currently grading the dirt around the trailer housing the hazardous material. Heavy-duty equipment is on the scene, and efforts to move the trailer will come once deemed safe for the crews. Okay, so it's not really safe for them to be around lithium batteries when they explode. So what happens if there's a big, huge fire that catches a lot of these electric cars on fire? Like, you know, park fire or some shit like that. Let's say that it did hit a residential area. And you had all these fucking electric cars that can't get you away from a fire, by the way, if you need to charge it. So, and they all exploded, right? What's going to happen? Going to make that fire a lot worse, isn't it? Yeah, these things are shit. And they certainly won't get you away when there's a fire nearby. So anyhow, there's another brother breaking it down, but these small hats and the hypocrisy of the Last Supper depiction, yeah, the blasphemy, yeah. I think I'm going to save this for the longer version that'll be on BitChute and Odysee, because let's just face it though, there's a limit of what I could do on YouTube, so I'm just going to send it there. I always tell you to watch my longer length videos on those other channels as well anyway, so if you want to see the longer length, you could do that, or you can just subscribe to this brother's channel, Yahweh Shai, right? I mean, that's the name of his channel, right? Yeah, Yahweh Shai Ibad Zah, and that's his channel. Learn why Satan rules the earth. The three dimensions realm is the Satan devil dominion. Alex breaks it all down, does he now? Alex Jones cites biblical scripture to break down why Satan has been allowed dominion over the earth and how that's resulted in many famed stars, celebrities, politicians, and power brokers selling their soul for personal gain. Well, down below is Cesare Borgia, and up above are all these drag queens, right? So the picture was already blasphemous, because we know that Yahweh Shai did not look like this. He wasn't no Edomite, so that was already blasphemous, but just even more blasphemous. That's why he's going to destroy this place by fire, more so than anything else. U.S. and Israeli state bound forever. What Benjamin, not a Jew's Washington visit meant. On popular home, Prime Minister made every effort to convince his Babylonian allies he is indispensable. Now, I read this article before, but I'll just reiterate it. Israeli Prime Minister made his first trip abroad since the events of October 7 with an important visit to D.C. His plane, known as the Wing of Zion, landed in the U.S. Capitol Monday, July 22nd. During the visit, Benjamin, not a Jew, faced strained relations with the Democratic Party. Many Democrats criticized his hardline stance on the Palestinian issues and allegations of corruption. These tensions were further heightened by Benjamin, not a Jew's repeated attempts to align himself with Republicans, giving the impression that he sought to influence U.S. domestic policies. Additionally, former President Trump expressed disappointment in Benjamin, not a Jew, for publicly congratulating Biden on his 2020 election victory, viewing it as an act of disloyalty. Hey, whether it's Republican or Democrat, they are both going to be for the least of the flock. So it doesn't matter whether it's Harris or it's Trump. They're both going to pretty much bow down to Benjamin, not a Jew. Iran sternly warns Israeli state against adventurism in Lebanon as tensions flare after the Golan Heights incident. Iran has strongly warned Israeli state against any new adventurism concerning Lebanon after the regime accused Hezbollah of firing a rocket that killed a dozen people in the town of Maljal Shams in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. So in other words, their accusations are also false. Probably the Israeli state fired that just to blame Iran. Kind of like, the recent rail incident where they are blaming Iran for it. The Zionist regime lacks the slightest moral credibility to comment and pass judgment on Maljal Shams incident, and the regime's allegations against others will be disregarded, Kanani said. He warned that any foolish moves by the Zionist regime could further destabilize the region, adding the Israeli state will be definitely and primarily held accountable for the unforeseeable consequences of such a folly. Kanani also advised the U.S. administration to stop supplying Israeli state with weapons of mass destruction. I'm glad they're calling it that, because that's the very thing that they accused Saddam of having. But yet, who has the weapons of mass destruction? The least of the flock, the Israeli state. Because who uses white phosphorus bombs? The Israeli state. and greeting with applause its criminal prime minister. Oh, and don't forget, of course, Babylon the Great. They used it against places in Iraq during the Iraq War. Yeah, that was very nice of them. After 10 months of ongoing atrocities against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, instead he urged the U.S. to honor its international and moral duties, act for world peace and security, which you know they won't, and stop Israeli state from sparking a new fire whose flames will engulf Zionists themselves. Well, like everything else though, we know that the least of the flock is the one drawing everyone in. Israeli state says all-out war imminent after Hezbollah rocket slams into soccer field, 30 casualties. There's no doubt that Hezbollah crossed all red lines, Israeli foreign minister says. So, well, one of the rockets landed there, right? Israeli prime minister and foreign minister are holding emergency consultations with the country's senior defense leadership following a devastating Hezbollah rocket attack on the town of Masjid Shams in Israeli state's north, which resulted in 30 casualties and at least 10 killed. So I guess this is supposed to be footage, right? Not even close to half the shit that they've fucking done to all the other places nearby. But, you know, the Israeli state's always going to play the victim, has a right to defend itself. Israeli state nearing all-out war, foreign minister. Hezbollah crossed all lines with rocket attack that killed 10 people, Israeli Qas has said. Israeli foreign minister vowed to launch a disappropriate response after Hezbollah allegedly killed 10 people in rocket attack on a football field in Golan Heights. The incident has brought the Israeli state to the brink of an all-out war with the group, Qas, warned. Most of the people dead were women and children. Oh shit, they're going to play victim. Yeah, that's what they do. So alright, here's a little bit better view of it. Hopefully it plays.
שעכשיו נכנסים גם כוחות ההצלה כנראה גם במיגונית. כן? הנה יוצאים חברים, יוצאים.
But it's okay that they pancaked Iraq and that they've taken 1/3 of Syria. But don't you dare retaliate, right? You know, because the Israeli state has a right to defend itself. Israeli state strikes Lebanon as Western diplomats warn of escalation. The Israeli regime carried out airstrikes against the positions of the Lebanese Hezbollah movement in southern Lebanon as Western diplomats are scrambling to prevent any further escalation in fighting on the two sides. Israeli military conducted air raids in several towns in southern Lebanon overnight on Saturday. It accused Hezbollah of firing rocket and killed a dozen people in the town of Masjid Shams in the occupied Golan Heights earlier that day. So, hey, escalation's already happened and responses has already happened. And who's using weapons of mass destruction? Last time I checked, white phosphorus bombs were in fact on the list of weapons of mass destruction, but it's okay as long as the Israeli state does it because it has the right to defend itself, right? So, who's using chemical weapons? You see the hypocrisy here. Occupied Syrian Golan citizens escort martyrs of massacre committed by Israeli occupation in modular towns to their final resting place. Thousands of people from occupied Syrian Golan and delegations from occupied Palestine escorted on Sunday the martyrs of the Israeli aggression that targeted modular towns with a missile to their final resting place. See? They know that the Israeli state did it. The initial information acknowledged that the Iron Dome had mistakenly hit the occupied Syrian Masjid Shams town. See? It was caused by the Iron Dome. But that's not what these other articles said. Isn't that interesting? You mean they misfired and they shot one of their own, but they're going to say that Hezbollah did it. You see how that goes. It was caused by friendly fire, by the way, but no, Hezbollah did it because that's who they're at war with. People in Golan who gathered in Sultan condemned the brutal act of aggression that targeted defenseless civilians and children. In turn, people go and stress the Israeli enemy had been working for a long time to ignite sedition and target the region as a whole. So, again, guess who got killed? The Syrians living in the area, the Palestinians living in the area. But they said that Hezbollah did this. You see how that goes, right? But you're not going to hear about that on the mainstream media. So, like everything else, though, you know, we know at least a flock Amalek's going to draw everybody in. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 6, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. See, Golan Heights was a part of Syria, has always been a part of the Syrian territory, but Amalek they fucking took it, just like they took the 1948 Palestine, right? How long is to him that layeth himself in thick clay? Now, I know this is talking about Esau Edom as a whole, and the thick clay is talking about the heavy debt. It's talking about Esau as a whole, but you got to look at the head tribe, Amalek, that's drawing everybody in. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of those of the people shall spoil thee because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land and of the city and all that dwell therein. You know, that's talking about Babylon as well as the Israeli state, because both are going to be wiped out. Verse 5, because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and as a death cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Well, how does he do that? Oh, he goes into the United Nations, which he controls, by the way. That's why the Israeli state's never held accountable. Yeah, the United Nations is supposed to represent all the countries, but it only really represents Babylon the Great, America, and the Israeli state. And they're exempt from all crimes. They can do everything without the UN's approval, but the UN will never condemn the United States or the Israeli state. But guess who is holding them accountable? All these other nations, the remnant of them, will rise up. Verse 7, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be booties unto them, meaning that payback is due. You see, like everything else, though, you know, it's kind of good to sometimes you can read different verses and still put it all together, and yet it all makes perfect sense. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house. And that's what Esau does. That he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to the house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. So like everything else, though, they have a date with death. And it doesn't matter whether it's Harris or Trump. Either one of them are going to lead Babylon to their deaths. So hopefully this has been edifying. Like I said, there's a longer version that's going to be on BitChute and Odysee, and of course Rumble. But I'm just keeping it simple here on YouTube. For that I will say Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakakadosh, Wa Abal Babal. Brakathum Tihofo Lek, Shalom.